Today we are going to install Kali Linux and Windows in the same PC. So for the preparation of dual booting, which is now installing two operating systems in the same PC, we are going to start with the partitioning of the hard drive. Remember, Kali Linux uses a different format from Windows, which mostly uses NTFS. So we are going to partition our hard drive so that we can be able to install our Kali Linux in that one partition, and the other partition will have Windows installed in it. So without so much stories, we are going directly to Disk Manager. That's where we're going to partition our hard drive. I partitioned my hard drive into two, so I have two partitions. So it will be easier for me because I just only need to delete this partition and then switch off my computer and then proceed with the installation of Kali Linux. But for you, the only thing that you need to do is, for example, go to your hard drive, the biggest space, you right click, go to shrink volume, give it a minute or two, you give whatever value you want, like for example I can put 100,000 MBs, click on shrink. So once we have an allocated space, leave it as such, so that when we are installing Kali Linux, we are going to see this unallocated space and we are going to put everything there. So what I'm going to do right now is to return this space back to where it was, because I want to delete this volume here and install the Kali Linux there. So I'm going to go to C, then go to extend volume, click on next, next. So now it's back. I go to this other one, I delete the volume. I don't have any data there, so we are done now. Now I have two things here. I have my C drive. This is where we have our Windows. It's running now from C. Now in the next partition, we are going to install Kali Linux there, and it's actually going to put some of the boot records in one of these partitions, these small partitions, so that when we are booting, we can get an option where you can select whether you are going to boot to Windows or go directly to Kali Linux. And actually we can even arrange whether Windows will be on top, or you'll see that when we get to that point. I'm going to show you exactly that. So the only thing that I'm left here with is to mount Kali Linux in our USB drive. So when we are installing Kali Linux, I demonstrated how to mount in a USB drive. This is a very familiar USB drive. So the only thing that you're going to do is just to you're going to plug it in on a computer like that. I also like having the mouse working, so I have only two things which are plugged in. My mouse, this is the dongle to the mouse, and I have the USB which contains our Kali Linux mounted in DD image. So I'm going to switch off my computer and I'm going to record my screen using the camera, because I don't have the best way I can be able to record while we are doing the installation. So I'm going to switch off the laptop, and then from there I will boot directly to the USB drive, and then we are going to proceed from that point. This is the boot menu. I can press F9 or go directly to that option, hit on enter. I'll select the USB drive because that's where my Kali Linux is mounted to, hit on enter, and this is now the interface we are going to start off with. So what I'm planning to do is to install Kali Linux. You can decide to use the Graphical install. You also have advanced options, but I just want to use the Graphical install so that I can actually see what I'm doing. I don't want to use the terminal. Just want to install directly using the Graphical method. So I click on install using the Graphical method, and you'll start thinking. Then we are going to be greeted by this. This is one of the first steps. As usual, I prefer English. You can choose whatever works with you. I'm in US, and I like using American English. So right now it's detecting and it's loading the installer components from the installation media. So if you decided to mount using the normal non-DD mode, you're going to get an error exactly here, which will tell you that it's having issues in detection of the files. So how you go about solving that is to make sure you mount in DD mode. Detect network hardware. Just click yes, and then click on continue, which is just here. you hit on continue. It's now detecting the hardware, and at this point this is where I plug in my Ethernet. And this is where you select whether you're going to use Wi-Fi or you're going to use Ethernet. So my Ethernet is working, so it should work. So the host name for this, you can decide to put whatever you want, but for me I just want to just leave it as Kali. Click on continue. And then the domain name, I actually don't have one right now, so I'll just skip that by hitting on continue. And then full name of the new user, so just use that name, hit on continue as usual, and then a password. Done. Hit on continue. This is where you configure the time zone. I'll just go with the first option, click on continue. You can just choose whichever is either closer to you or the one that is exactly your location there. We are going to use the manual method of disk partitioning, and remember the disk that we deleted. This is where now we are going to meet it. We are working with this 246 GB. If I click on continue, you're going to have several options. You can decide to create a new partition or automatically partition the free space. You can actually even show the cylinders, head, the sectors, and all of that. But you're going to automatically partition the free space. Then you hit on continue. You give it time, and here, depending on how conversant you are with Kali Linux, you might decide to separate home partition, or separate the home, the var, and the TMP partitions. But for me, because right now we are doing this for a beginner, just let's have all the files in that partition. So every file will be in that partition. So you click on continue. It will automatically partition that hard drive, the one that had an allocated space. And after doing all of that within seconds, then we are going to hit on finish partitioning and write changes to the disk. So we're going to hit on, as usual, the base corner, continue. Then you're going to get this. The following partitions are going to be formatted, that and that. So if you agree, which we are going to do, because if we don't, then we are going to face some issues. After doing that, then we are going to hit on, as usual, continue, installing packages and backing and every other thing. So while the installation is taking place, it's very important to note where your grab will be. If you have several storage devices in your computer and you have Windows in one of them and then Kali Linux in another, so make sure you have the grab installed in exactly the same disk where your Windows installation is. Otherwise, you're going to get some issues when you are trying to boot into either Kali Linux or Windows. So here we select even the genome, hit on continue, and we are going to give it some time for that to happen. Select and install software. Now it's retrieving all the files and trying to install what it can at this point. So we are now installing the grab, the bootloader, and we are done finishing the installation. Now this is the point where I was telling you that you should have both grabs in the same bootloader. So if you don't have Windows and Kali Linux in the same disk, you're going to get a notification here. You're going to select where you're going to install the grab. Make sure you select the exactly same grab where Windows is installed. It's taking time trying to finish the installation. Don't know whether it's cleaning up. The installation is complete, so it's time to boot into your new system. Make sure to remove the installation media so that you don't boot into the new system, so that you boot into the new system rather than restarting the installation. Please choose continue to reboot. Click on continue, then remove the flash drive. Let's see when we restart what's going to actually happen. And now we have our options here. The first option is Kali Linux. The advanced options for Kali Linux, for example, the recovery mode for Kali Linux. Then we have Windows Boot Manager. If I want to go to Kali Linux, I'll use the first option. If I want to go to Windows, I'll use this the other option here. So first of all, let's boot into Kali Linux. So I'll go to the first option, hit on enter, and as usual, the Kali Linux logo there. Then we're here. So hit on enter, and the password. I don't know whether I remember the password. Hit on enter. Try to zoom out, and there you are. We have our Kali Linux. If I want to go to Windows, I will restart and then choose the option for Windows, and that's what exactly we're going to do next. Click there, power off. Yes, that's exactly what I want to restart. Yeah, I have an option for restarting. And now we are going to go to now Windows. Something else I need to tell you, in case you don't touch anything, by default after like 15 seconds it will go directly to Kali Linux, because that's the first option. You can also change that so that you increase maybe the time, or you can reduce that. So let's go to Windows. Let's see whether it's exactly the one that we had. Area alone, password, hit enter, and exactly you can remember there's a desktop. It's now, so now you have Windows and Kali Linux in the same hard drive. Thank you for watching the video up to the end. Just tell me how smooth or how rough was your installation of Kali Linux there in the comment region. I usually check my comments, so thank you and see you in the next one.